I'm Joe Justice. I worked directly with Bill Gates. And later, I worked with the leadership team at Amazon when Jeff Bezos was CEO. And after that, I operated the Agile program at Tesla for Elon Musk. And I've never seen anything as fast as what I saw with Elon Musk. What I'd like to do is share with you what a day in the life of an Agilist means at Tesla. I'd actually like to show you what I did each day operating Agile at Tesla. I've made a 12-step program to help waterfall companies move towards Agile in hardware. And each one of these 12 steps is about an hour. We talk about how to launch hardware teams, how to set up digital self-management, what the maintenance model and hardware looks like, justice board for financial prioritization, the speed of innovation and how that becomes the DNA of the teams, hardware reviews, supplier contracts, line manufacturing processes, product splits and dependencies, manufacturing assembly lines, the actual build, and what office means. Where I would like to go is this innovate step. Does anybody see a big pink arrow? Can I get a nod or a thumbs up or a wave or a WhatsApp emoji? Does anyone see a big pink arrow? Okay, I got a yes. Yes, we can. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'll go directly to it. Waterfall seems to mean year or longer budgets. That's really what waterfall seems to mean, allocation of cash a year or more in advance. And that's normal in hardware, making cell phones, making washing machines, of course, making cars or rockets or airplanes. Scrum might be the least agile of the agile methods, but it does two things really well. It mandates a less than 30-day budget cycle, and it introduces a role called a product owner to allocate that budget into chunks called the product backlog. And it calls anyone doing the work a developer, which makes it a lot easier to have cross-functional teams. Now, Tesla doesn't use any Scrum anymore. And if I get a lot of questions or comments about that, I'll go into this yellow graphic as to why Tesla doesn't use Scrum anymore and what they do instead. The summary is Tesla uses real-time budgets. They allocate cash multiple times an hour. This is normal if you're making an app in Silicon Valley with 5 people or maybe even 10 people. The fact that Tesla and SpaceX do that with over 110,000 employees and 500,000 people if you count tier 1 suppliers is amazing. Now that's agile, where your budgeting is from a couple of months to a couple of weeks with the preference towards the shorter time scale. In fact, it's past agile because the definition of agile says from a couple of months to a couple of weeks, and Tesla is doing it multiple times a day. What that means is the products themselves change more than 60 times a day. There are more than 60 new parts introduced to cars being sold every day. And there are 61 or more parts being deleted, being removed every day. That means the total part count is going down every day. And here's what I learned from Elon Musk. You sleep at the bottleneck. You actually physically sleep wherever the bottleneck is. You work until you fall asleep. And when you wake up, you say, is this still where the bottleneck is? When you go to sleep, you hand someone your tools. You don't own your own tools. You hand them to someone else. So it enforces the feeling of shared ownership. What XP was trying to do since the 80s, extreme programming was trying to do since the 80s. then what leadership actually means, according to Elon Musk, is you join the mob doing the work. You don't watch presentations or have any sit-down meetings. I did not see a single sit-down meeting or presentation while I was in Tesla. Instead, Elon Musk and everybody does the work, drills metal, loads parts into robots, cleans the floor, whatever the bottleneck is. And to assist with that, you have a set of red, green, yellow lights like andon lights, but they're driven by machine learning to guide what money should be spent on next. It's essentially a digital product owner. I got a request in the chat. Yes, please elaborate on how teams work if not Scrum. So let's go there. Okay. Scrum has a 30-day financial allocation called a sprint. It can be less. It's a maximum of 30 days. The goal is, what are we going to build this 30 days, test it, and change our mind before we build the next thing. If we allocated a year's budget and fixed the backlog, that wouldn't be agile. Scrum has a role to allocate money called a product owner. They do that by prioritizing the business objectives through the product backlog. Then the developers decide the technical plan through the sprint backlog. Advanced agile companies like Tesla do not use the Scrum roles anymore. Instead, the teams self-organize around projects and share the responsibilities. Governments require some roles like a health and safety officer and plant manager. Tesla employees rotate through who is playing these roles, sometimes changing more than once a week or even in a day. Anyone can play these roles if they have completed the training. The training is provided by apps on everyone's phones. This keeps the company feeling flat, where anyone feels they can do anything. Employees' results are measured automatically by software called digital self-management instead of a manager. There are no performance reviews or promotions. Employees make more money from stock options. Many employees have more than $1 million US and continue working at the company because they enjoy the work and are passionate about the company mission. So there's not a product owner role to prioritize and a Scrum Master role to remove impediments and a developer role to do the work. Those responsibilities are shared. There are plant managers or health and safety managers, but who is in that role is not higher salary or higher authority. It's merely for government compliance. Who is in that role changes more than once a day. Who can play that role is anyone who's completed the training on their app. So Tesla doesn't use the 3 roles of Scrum. Instead, it's a shared accountability. Then Scrum has a mini waterfall called a sprint, where we start with planning, we check progress along the way, we have review and testing at the end, and a post-mortem. Advanced agile companies like Tesla do not use the 5 events of Scrum anymore. The employees and AI software propose new goals each day. Employees then use the law of 2 feet to walk to any project at any time and join. The law of 2 feet says that you should use your own 2 feet to walk to whichever project you can add the most value. You might stay working on the same project for days or even years, but you could walk to another project at any time without being told to do it. The Agile boards at Tesla are automated by software. It's like a digital Scrum Master creating the board for you. The product owner functions, or financial allocation functions, are also mostly software. Tesla has an AI software called Auto Bidder that dynamically trades on public markets. It started by being trained on energy trading, and now it can be used for all procurement and bidding. In this way, nearly 100% of the employees are developers for hardware and software. There are more than 100,000 employees in Tesla now. This is really key. If 1 out of every 5 people is a product owner and they're not contributing most of the time to the work, that is less financially efficient. The goal would be to have 100% of employees directly working on the product or service at all times. That'd be the dream. Tesla gets close to this by automating what you'd wait on a manager for. Performance reviews, Tesla just doesn't have them. Vacation is automatically approved by apps. There's no management team to approve that. There's no one asking you for a presentation. Tesla doesn't have presentations. There's no one asking you to attend a meeting. Tesla doesn't do sit-down meetings. They do working meetings only. So what you would wait on for a manager to do has been removed or replaced by an app. And then there's no sprint. There's no rhythm. You're told, spend money as fast as you responsibly can. And everyone in the company can spend money. Now, Scrum I recommend Scrum for companies that are coming from a yearly budget cycle. It introduces you to a 30-day or shorter budget cycle. And how that works is there's a product backlog, a list of what we're going to spend money on from the business perspective, and a sprint backlog, the technical plan of technically how we're going to spend that money, what we're going to build, and the product, the thing we're actually going to give to the customer. Well, Tesla definitely has products, the Model 3, the Model S, the Model X, the Model Y, and coming very soon, the Tesla Cybertruck and Tesla Semi. However, Tesla does not use backlogs anymore. Tesla does not use product backlogs or divide work into sprints. Tesla focuses on automating safety, quality, and certification tests. Then employees mob to improve the product with real-time feedback from automated tests. Here's why. For most products, there's a certification. If it's an electrical product, there's electrical certifications. If it's a food product, there's food safety certifications. If it's an aerospace product, there's aviation certifications, flying certifications. For Tesla, it's road legal safety certifications. And this typically takes most companies more than a year, which is why for a company like BMW or Daimler Mercedes, they introduce a whole new model every 5 to 7 years because the certification itself takes a year. And you can't introduce a change in your product faster than you can test it for safety and certify it. You have to test and certify for safety. So what Tesla has done is automate the certification and safety tests so they can be done in real time on each individual car. This is called factory mode, and it's part of digital self-management. What that means is a change can happen at any time because that individual car will be fully tested for road legal certification. Each individual car is approved for road use, and each individual car is tested for safety. What that means is every car is potentially unique. And with 60 parts changing a day in Tesla, whereas for Lexus or Mitsubishi or Honda or Fiat or Ford, they would have what's called a minor model change every 2.5 years. The reason Tesla can change 60 parts every day is because every car goes through safety testing and every car is certified individually for government road legal use, and that's automated. The reason it's fast and affordable is because it's automated. It's robots and artificial intelligence. It's called factory mode. Okay. Most companies, because they have a year-long certification process, they really care about date estimates. When will this new product launch? Well, because every car is a product launch, Tesla really doesn't care about dates. I mean, there's thousands of cars made a day. and they're all potentially different. So each car is a product launch. So Tesla really does not care about estimated dates. In fact, you're not asked to estimate dates. Instead, trend lines from each project show a trend to when hundreds of teams will complete their own small project. A small project includes testing and updating production. In this way, each Tesla car in production changes more than 20 times a week. For example, the headlights, taillights, and charge port of the Model S and X products were changed in 2 days. From design to on sale to customer in 2 days. The charge port alone for a company like Mitsubishi might be a 3-year project. In Tesla, that was 2 days in production. Electronics, software, metal parts, airbags, seat cushions, even large metal parts are introduced continuously in production every day and sold to the customers. This is possible because of extensive automated testing that runs on every single car to ensure safety and legal compliance. Dun, 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 dun. Employee alerts, complaints, and requests are received by chat, email, or face-to-face. If a request appears valid and important to the mission, the request is added to the Justice Board. That's the list of all work to be done. I named it that after I left the company. There wasn't a name for it in Tesla, so I named it after me when I left. Teams self-organize around the Justice Board to reduce risk and accelerate the mission. And this includes addressing valid employee requests. The last piece I'd like to say about Agile at Tesla is actually the same as what many good Scrum companies do, and that's mob. All work in Tesla was mob, group work, all of it. If people wanted to do deep alone work, they would do that while they were sleeping. Really, deep work is when they're sleeping. We were encouraged, and I would encourage my teams to journal before we go to sleep, and then review our journal when we woke up. Then time at work was for action. And action is faster as a group, as a swarm, as a mob. All work in Tesla is group work. All contracts, legal, human resources, manufacturing, part design, software. It was all in the factory and all group work. Deep work, alone work is for when you're asleep, is the idea. Your dreams should be your teacher. What I wanted to reveal here is what product owners and Scrum Masters have become. Some of you might be very familiar with the Scrum roles. There's the 3 roles. We have a developer to do the work, test, design. We have Scrum Masters to remove impediments and facilitate the 5 events and 1 activity of Scrum, the game of Scrum, to make Scrum a game everyone can play. And we have product owners to make financial allocation decisions called the product backlog, ordering the product backlog. Well, Tesla doesn't have any of that anymore. So what do you do if you join a Musk company and you're already a skilled product owner, or you're already a skilled Scrum Master? Well, I'll start with what I did. Here's what I did before when I joined waterfall companies. At my daily schedule in a company with annual budgets, and they didn't have much Agile yet, is in the morning, I'd check my email and I'd update the Agile board. And I might be the only one using the Agile board in that company to start. And about an hour later, I would host a daily Scrum event for one of my projects, and I would invite anyone who's interested. At about 11 a.m., I would pair or mob if anyone is interested. I would attract a group to try to do work with me. At noon, I'd deliver lunch presentations on the benefit of an Agile practice, like retrospectives, to my coworkers. At 1 p.m., I'd check email, I'd update the Agile board again. At 2 p.m., I might pair or mob, or I might have to solo work if no one is interested to join. At 3 p.m., I'd create a presentation on the benefits of agility for one of my bosses or my boss's boss. At 4 p.m., I'd rehearse the presentation, email requests to give the presentation to my boss and anyone the boss invites. And at 5 p.m., I'd have a happy hour before people go home, and I'd have snacks, and I'd invite others to see the Agile team space, either virtually or in person. In a waterfall company, that was pretty usual. That might sound normal for an Agile change agent or Agile evangelist. Well, here's what I did when I worked with Bill Gates. Scrum was already running well. At 9 a.m., I'd facilitate daily Scrum and then the parking lot. At 10 a.m., I would follow up on whatever the key impediment from that day's daily Scrum was. For example, it might be a face-to-face meeting with the head of IT security to say, none of our remote developers can access the important financial information. It's behind a security wall that they can't access. We need to make that open so our remote teams can contribute. That might be the top impediment of the day. At 11 a.m., I would join the mob with the team. I would attempt to test, develop, and design. At noon, we would have lunch as a team. At 1 p.m., I'd mob again. At 2 p.m., I would host Refinement Cafe. We'd all get a drink we like, maybe a coffee, maybe a beer, and we would refine the upcoming business objectives so they're technically ready. We had a technical plan to execute them. At 3 p.m., we might, for example, have a user story map of a new feature with the product owner and request the team and maybe 3 customers join through video chat. At 4 p.m., we might make a dependency map of a legacy bug fix with the team and another related team, cross-team coordination. And 5 p.m., I would have my last mob of the day with the team. That'd be very normal day in the life. Tesla was totally different. Absolutely and completely different. Everyone is expected to be directly working at all times, including Elon Musk. Everyone is loading material into robots. Everyone is writing Python code. Everyone is painting cars. Everyone is doing service on cars that customers own. At 4 a.m., I would walk through the plant and I would look where the parts that came to me yesterday came from. So I would go upstream. The work I did yesterday, I would go to where that work came from yesterday, and I would take notes. And I might join the mob there on the steps that were ahead of me yesterday. At 5 a.m., I would tag in. I would join any open position where I thought I could add value. Use the law of 2 feet, you go wherever you want, wherever you think you can add highest value. And someone who is tagging out would hand me their tools. No one owns tools, not even a laptop. I mean, you have your own phone, and you could bring your own laptop if you want. There's no rule against it. But there's truly a culture of this is shared work. So it's almost a ritual. It's very casual, but almost a ritual. Someone hands you whatever tool they were just using. So you know that tool will continue to work, and you start working. From 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., 12-hour shifts, pairing, swarming, mobbing, writing Python, unloading shipping containers, building cars. I built parts of thousands of cars, all kinds of cars. I helped design parts. I helped design systems. I helped remove parts, eliminate parts from production processes. I helped change production processes. Everybody does. Now, all throughout this, about every 15 minutes, but I wrote at 7 a.m., really all day, about every 15 minutes, you glance up at these monitors, the digital self-management tools. They're also on your phone, but usually your hands are busy. So you glance up at monitors, and they're flow diagrams and information radiators. What you're trying to decide is, should you move to a different area to add more value? Because you can use the law of 2 feet at any time. There is no manager telling you, no, be here. It's dynamic self-allocation, like attending an open space conference. At 5 p.m., I would tag out and I'd hand whatever tools I was using to someone else who was tagging in. And I would then walk the processes that received the products that I made that day. So I would follow car parts, cars, battery packs, motors, downstream to see the parts that I had made. Where were they now? And I would take notes. How are those parts being received? And then I might join the mob again. I might join that mob, getting the parts that I'd made or worked on or add value or help design that day. And at about 7 p.m., I'd head home. What this means is it was very often a 15-hour day. Some people would do this 7 days a week. Elon Musk does this 7 days a week. Elon hasn't taken vacation in 15 years. And that is what creates the level of cross knowledge that Elon is famous for. Elon has joined so many mobs in so many areas that Elon has a deep technical understanding that most leaders don't have, because most leaders learn from email reports and presentations. And we almost never used email. Most people in Tesla don't even know what their email address is. Email would be too slow. You'd have to look at a laptop and be pulled out of the work. Even if you're coding, you don't want to be looking at email. You want to be looking at the code. So most communication was iMessage or Signal, phone chats. So you have your phone and you can fire off something quickly while you're working with robots or while you're writing code or while you're driving something. That's a day in a life of someone like a Scrum Master. Now, where I'd like to take this next, and then see what questions or comments arise, is a day in the life of someone who is like a product owner before. Oh, I see in the chat already. Hours-wise, this sounds like servitude, no? When you're working hard to make someone else rich, it makes a bad feeling. But when the richest person on earth doesn't own a house, doesn't wear any Gucci, Fendi, or Prada, in fact, they're wearing a Tesla t-shirt and work shoes and black jeans, that's Elon Musk, and they don't even own a house, they sleep in a sleeping bag on the floor, it's easier to feel you're not working to make someone else rich. It's easier to feel you're working towards a mission. And I will say Tesla is very mission driven. If there are two competing choices, and one of them is more on mission, which is to accelerate the transition of sustainable energy, than the other, that is what's chosen immediately, even if Tesla will make less money. Now that's uncommon. Most companies, the real decisions are made based on what gets someone promoted or what makes the company more money. That's where it feels yucky and like servitude. But when people are mission driven, there's a very different motivation, especially when the boss takes no salary. Elon hasn't been paid ever in 15 years. He's paid in stock options, which Elon doesn't exercise. I mean, Elon's basically broke. If he sold his stock options, Elon would be the wealthiest person on planet Earth. But if Elon doesn't sell Elon stock options, he's basically broke all the time. So it doesn't feel like servitude from that perspective. What about experience? If you keep on moving from job to job, when do you become an expert? How do you benefit from someone's experience? You don't have to keep moving from job to job. The key here is it's the law of 2 feet. You can move anytime without being told, but some people stay working on autopilot for years. That's where they want to be, and that's where they believe they're contributing the highest value. So the point is, there's not some manager allocating you, that'd be too slow. The point is that you can self-allocate, but it's not that you're randomized. In practice, people tend to check if they should move after something gets done. So let's say we're changing the bumper closures on the Model Y, how it seals for theft prevention, so it's hard to steal, and for water penetration and weather, the closures on the trunk. Say we're changing that on the rear deck lid, the rear hatch. Most people wouldn't choose to leave until that meets a definition of done and that version is deployed in production. Now, some people might choose to stay there to make the next version of the rear deck lid because they're really excited about it and they have a good idea. But some other people might go to work on a very similar or very different system. but it's not like you're being pulled off before you're done. No one pulls you off. You choose when to leave. So you can build as deep experience as you're interested in. How do you do research? Research is always done on the product. So if you want to research a new alloy, you do it by experimenting with the manufacturing equipment. Part of what makes this work is there's more than one area making every part at the same time. So there's not one place making doors, and there's not one place painting hoods or bonnets. There's always more than one. So you can take one offline to run experiments, but it's actual production machinery. I mean, it was making parts that were being sold just a minute ago. Then whenever your research produces something that meets the definition of done, it's been automatically tested by the AIs to be road legal, safe, and certifiable. That part is immediately deployed into production. In a software programming analogy, this is what you would call coding on main or coding on trunk. All research is done in the factory on production with actual production hardware that you've turned off for research, and as soon as you can, you turn it back on again. So there's not some separate research facility. How do you know that you joined the right mob and are working on something you're actually good at? The rotation length between the driver and the navigator, I don't know how many people here know mob. In mob, one person is twisting the wrench or programming the Python or steering the robot for it to learn. One person is doing the thing. And then you have 2, 3, or 4 other people giving them advice and doing quality check. That's level 1 of mob. There's 3 levels of mob. It gets more interesting from there. But at least at level 1, it's like that. Well, you rotate who's the driver, and the team chooses how often they rotate. So everyone drives. Every day, everyone drives. On average, it's about every 7 minutes. So if you have a mob of 4 people, in less than an hour, everyone will have been driver at least once. So how do you know if you're good at it? When you're the driver, when you're doing it, you know immediately if you're good at it or not. But even if you're not good at it, even if it's your very first time, you have 2, 3, or 4 other people giving you advice. And as long as at least one of them is good at it, the product will be good. And this is the fastest way to have cross-learning and multi-learning. Now, you don't know necessarily if you're good at something when you first join the mob. So the mob's job is to be welcoming of new people and try to help them find their highest value. And the cool thing about mob work is as long as one person is at least reasonably good at the thing, really in just a few hours, you get the basics down. And if you happen to stay in similar mobs or the same mob for a few weeks or a few months, you really can learn deep experience. This has been well studied in educational theory. Project-based learning is the most rapid and retained the longest with the highest fidelity. Well, working directly, there's no separate training in Tesla. Well, I take that back. There's 4 hours of training when you join the company, and then you're in. There's no other training except what's on your apps. What that means is because it's all project-based learning, it's incredibly fast how quickly you can learn. It is truly exciting. Extremely average people can learn so fast. Humans sell themselves short. How do you manage bugs and fixes? So how do I even say that? Whatever is creating the bug, you join a mob or create a mob. Anyone can create a mob. It's like an open space conference. You propose an agenda item for the justice board. Here's this bug. Or the artificial intelligence software will pick the really easy ones, the really obvious ones. Like if there's a defect found in production, the AI will propose that and put it on the justice board for you. So you don't have to say, you know, this new supplier's metal is less conductive. The AI already knows that from automated conductivity tests, and it's put it on the justice board. we need to improve conductivity in these areas. Electrical propagation in these areas is less than it was in the last batch of material, right? So humans don't have to propose everything. But if there's a problem, a software bug, a hardware bug, a production bug, it's added to the agenda and mobs swarm on it. With share ownership and responsibility, who is held responsible when things go wrong? How do you mitigate errors and risks? Now, this truly is what a mission-based company can do. Exactly as you said, Becca Katz. Becca, everyone is responsible. It's way past the concept of a person to hold accountable or a single wringable neck. It's way past that. Many people describe the pressure inside a Musk company as 100% self-imposed. Your manager, because you don't have a manager, or anyone is not telling you things are going wrong, fix it. You see on the digital self-management board, things are going wrong, and you immediately use the law of 2 feet to address it the best you can. And there are truly 110,000 people doing that. That is the culture of the company. How do you manage the production support? I mean, all the production issues that happen during your sprint. Whoever's there handles it, period, end of sentence. Now, if you happen to be there, and so you know about what caused the issue, very likely you will join that mob immediately. No one tells you to do it, but very often you hold yourself accountable and you join that mob if it's valuable for you to help. This is what radical visibility does. I guess I should show you. Here's what one of these justice boards looks like. Again, Tesla doesn't have a name for these inside the company, so I named it after myself. I'm not allowed to show pictures of the actual justice boards in the company. So this is a drawing that I made, but they look a lot like this. At the top, you have the current bank account balance of the company, Tesla or SpaceX. And the question everyone is asked is, are we spending enough money? So you have the bank account balance on all these monitors, and are we spending enough money? Then the next question is, are we spending the money efficiently? Now that's more tricky to answer, because what is value? Well, value is different for every mission or goal. Now, cost is easy to measure. That's automatically measured by the software AI, and that's capital expenses plus operational expenses. So everyone's salary working on a mission, which is automatically calculated, plus materials expense and basically rent, the cubic meter use fee of the company. Now, there's much more detail here, but we don't have time to go through all of it. What might be relevant is to say any new proposal to deliver to the company's mission or to fix a bug is a candidate to be put as a row on this board. So rows on this board can be huge, like the entire autopilot program is a row on this board. But also you can have a row on this board, well, that's equally huge in hardware, like the Cybertruck design and production ramp. I mean, that's massive. New tooling, new suppliers, new factories. Or it can be as tiny as automate butyl tape application to the footwell. Butyl tape is a thick tape that has some sound deadening and thermal insulation properties, and we use it all around the cars. It's extremely effective, extremely inexpensive, and dynamically applying that robotically is good. So that is also something as tiny as that is also a candidate for a row on the justice board. We could go into this again in another session, but actually I think I only have a few more minutes to hang out with everybody. How contracts work. Here we go. Product ownership. If anyone is super passionate about this, please join the Agile Hardware Developer class where we go through all of it. But I'm very happy to share as much as I can in the time box we have, which maybe will get some people excited or inspired. How do you manage production support? Yeah, it's added to the Justice Board. Why did you decide to eventually leave the company? 2 reasons. One, my son's birthday, he was turning 3, and the automated allocation systems had me scheduled overlapping my son's birthday, and I wanted to take him camping. And I proposed a goal to fix the scheduling algorithms so that I could have time off on my son's birthday, and it wasn't getting done in time. And I wanted a perfect track record at Tesla. So I had a choice to either wait until the production scheduling algorithms were fixed. There was an error with them at the time. And miss my son's birthday and celebrate it on another day. Or simply take the time off anyway, but not have a perfect track record at Tesla, or resign or retire from the company before my son's birthday. So that's why I did it when I did it. Well, why would I even think about resigning? Why was that a thing? Tesla stock price went up 5x. I made like $5 million. It was epic. So I was like, I'm going to buy a condo in Hawaii. And that was super common. Many of the people I worked with already had more than $1 million. I had more than $1 million before I ever joined Tesla. What's really cool about working with people is because they're working there because they love it. They're inspired by the mission, or they like the work. Most people there are already financially independent. I don't know about most. Many people there are already financially independent. And that makes a really mission-based culture. Do you think this method will work for all companies? I think a version of this will work for all companies. I think the way Tesla does contracts could work for all companies. I think the way SpaceX and Tesla do manufacturing could work for all companies. I think the way modules are identified and their interfaces could work for all companies. I think the way the manufacturing lines are set up, or the agile lines, could work for all companies. I think some of these practices, or maybe most of them, could work for all companies. What would not work for all companies is the mission-based feeling in the Musk companies. To do that, companies would actually have to prioritize a mission over making money, which I don't think most board of directors are currently voting in favor of. What do you recommend for all of us mere mortals working at non-Musk companies and unadvanced agile or non-agile organizations? This is the most important point. I'm so glad someone asked it. Thank you, RT. I'd like to share that. I think, like, what can we do? In pink, I've put what Elon Musk does. In light blue or cyan, I put what I think most of us normal people could do. For example, Elon Musk sleeps at the bottleneck and mobs all day, 12 or more hours a day, 7 days a week. That is fairly superhuman. What I will suggest, Joe's Agile. So here's the Musk model, maybe in pink, and here's Joe's Agile, like maybe more approachable, is join mobs doing the work at least 1 hour a day. Not talking, but trying to help. And even if you're not the best one, just try and take good advice from the people doing the work, especially if you're in a very senior role. This is extremely humbling because you're probably not the best at everything. So try to figure out where the bottleneck is each day and try to actually work the bottleneck the best you can for an hour each day. I think most humans could do that, and that would be transformative, especially for senior people. Then Tesla and SpaceX have 1,000-year goals. This makes it easy for people to independently prioritize because the 1,000-year goals are very clear, and we have a work back schedule called the master plan. Well, we could probably take the company mission statement, whatever that is, and imagine that's achieved for all customers who've ever lived. And that would probably be a 1,000-year goal for most companies. So you might be able to create your own 1,000-year goals that's from your own company existing mission. Tesla uses real-time accounting with no budgets. I would recommend, if you own the company, do this immediately. This is incredibly important and incredibly effective, but we don't all own the company. We might be somewhere in the company. Please take whatever budget you control, if any. maybe you control $50 a week of employee happiness money, and you usually use it for ice cream or beer. Or maybe you actually control a sizable budget. If you control any budget at all, run that like a startup. Have a real-time public indicator of how much is left, and then attempt to have an indicator of how efficiently that money is being spent. And your goal is to spend it as fast as you efficiently can. That you could do with whatever budget you have, or a percentage of your budget. Then lastly, the Musk companies have created very good artificial intelligence software to replace managers. And the result is you don't have to pay people to manage. You can pay 100% of people, or nearly 100%, to directly work on the product. What I'd recommend we all do is start a digital self-management product. Fund that, create that as an IT initiative in your company if you can, or at least propose it. I did answer Yaki's question, why did you leave Tesla? I made a bunch of money, and then why I chose the time I did is so I could spend my son's birthday taking him camping for a few days. How can you focus on your work with 1,000-year goals? I mean, to not work at 1,000 things in parallel, not progress. There is one product in SpaceX, only one, Starship. Falcon was the predecessor to Starship, and it's retired. In Tesla, there's really 3 products: the Model S and X platform, the Model 3 and Y platform, and now Cybertruck. The goal is to so aggressively reduce product. So instead of proliferating your product, making more product, you improve relentlessly, very few or one products, to become what the 1,000-year goal is. Awesome, DG. Folks, that's time. I'm so grateful to have spent that time with you. If you like, you can tweet any remaining comment or question to @JoeJustice. Please tag Agile Israel. It is my honor and privilege to hang out with you. Thank you very much.